Great. So we're joined today by lots of you. Great to see so many folk here. You might work for the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. You might be interested in this topic. You might want to partner or know more about how you can get involved in this particular technology or working in this particular challenge area. And you might be here just because you thought, you know what? I'm really interested in this, and this is a good way to spend an hour on my Wednesday. So we're really delighted that you've chosen to spend this time with us, and we're looking forward to the conversation today. This is a collective and a generous space. We're here to share ideas, concepts, and questions with you, and we hope that you will share your own thoughts and questions back with us. And remember, there are no stupid questions. And we know that gnarly challenges like humanitarian supply chains cannot be solved by one idea, one technology, or one organisation. As much as we would perhaps like that to be the case, that's not how it is. So the opportunity to be here together for 1 hour is a real gift in helping us to develop our collective understanding about this problem and learn about one potential solution. So with that in mind, I'm going to invite you now to take a moment to close some tabs, turn off your notifications, maybe hide your phone, just sort of shove it away in a corner of the room. And if you're able to, please pop your cameras on. It really helps us at the front of the room and the speakers we're going to hear from today to feel connected to you, to know that you're with us. And for us to have a collective experience of asking questions and learning together if we can see each other and hear from each other too. So I'll give you just one moment now to close that email tab or switch off those notifications. So today we are on the frontier of humanitarian supply chains, and we're going to be learning about one of the ideas supported by the Frontier Technologies Hub, GeoSeals. So today we're going to be watching a film for about 15 minutes about the team's experience of testing this technology in Ethiopia. Then we're going to hear from some of the people involved, and then there'll be time for us all to have a period of questions and discussion together. It's lovely to see so many faces. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to introduce your guides for this event. So we have with us Phil Outram, Senior Research Officer at FCDO. Give us a wave, Phil. I did see you a second ago, but you've gone off my screen, but hopefully you're on somebody's. We have Alistair Davis, who's the Director of Aribada Initiative. Give us a wave, Alistair. Thank you. And Ruby Hill is the lead engineer on the GeoSeals pilot. So hi, Ruby. Thank you. So we'd love to know a little bit about who's here with us. So we're going to get started with 2 chat waves. So if you open the chat, the first question is, where are you in the world today? My colleague Maritz is going to pop that question in the chat. Thank you, Maritz. And then if you answer the question, but don't press send just yet, and Samat's off. It's okay. Someone's always got to go first. And then what we're going to do is we're going to press send all at the same time. So welcome. If you're just joining us, pop where you're calling in from today in the chat, and then press send now, and we'll see what range we've got. Wonderful. Oh, it's great to see so many places, from Bangkok to Hamburg, Ethiopia to Washington, DC. Oh, that must be early there. From Bath to Vietnam, from Exeter to Zambia, from Kyrgyzstan to Guildford to Abuja. We have an amazing range of people in this room calling in from so many places. So welcome to you. If it's first thing in the morning, if it's your afternoon, or if it's your evening, you're really welcome here. Our next question is, what has brought you here today? So again, we're going to pop that question in the chat, but we are going to type first, and then we will press send all together. So it might be something quite specific. It might be something quite vague. Please just tell us what's brought you here today. I'm going to give you a minute, just or a couple of seconds to write that. It's a good landing moment, isn't it? Why am I here? Okay, and when you're ready, press send. And we can see, great. So we want to have interest in why the project's progressed and curious about the process. Could the solution really work? To learn from successful innovation developments in Ethiopia, because we've got a similar problem in South Sudan, and we want to maybe learn about that. Someone recommended this, an interest in distributed manufacturing. Fantastic. What a real range. So thank you. I'm not going to be able to read out everybody's, but do have a scroll through the chat there and see what's brought other people here. And maybe there's a connection you can make as well, thinking of similar reasons that have got you into this room. So I'm now going to pass over to Phil Outram to introduce the frontier that we're exploring today, humanitarian supply chains. So over to you, Phil.
Sorry, Bryony, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Phil.
Okay, great. Sorry,
That's okay.
Seems like the mic icon is not responding. Anyway, thank you very much. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here. My name is Phil Outram. I'm the SRO of the Frontier Tech Program. So I have the privilege of working with this amazing team and seeing and helping us sort of develop all these technologies day in, day out. But obviously it's my privilege to welcome everyone today. It's wonderful to see such a great turnout. And really excited to introduce to you this idea. It's showing so much promise in current trials. It's one of our strongest pilots. But just before I do, just a couple of sort of reflections. We're here because we're curious. We're all curious to explore what's possible as we face immense challenges in delivering humanitarian aid. Sadly, the global demand for humanitarian aid is surging, and the pressure keeps mounting to deliver aid faster, smarter, and more efficiently. So in a world where every minute and every resource matters, we really believe that frontier technologies aren't just helpful, they're essential. They offer us new ways to close the gap between aid being purchased and that aid actually reaching those who need it most. As a Frontier Tech hub, the program, we've done a lot of pilots, about 90 or so over the last 5 years. And we've done quite a few in the humanitarian space. So a range of ideas from blockchain to drones for delivery to sensors. Some have worked, but it's important to recognize that others didn't. And as you'll hear from Ruby in the upcoming film, having space to fail is critical. And that's what, one of the wonderful things that the Frontier Tech program offers us, and you guys, anyone in FCDO working in this space. The other thing is we believe bold solutions can drive real impact, but when they're paired with a willingness to learn and adapt. So innovation thrives on testing, learning, and collaboration. And this project, GeoSeals, is a great example that was built on the learnings and insights from our pilots and the pilots that came before. So the film you're about to watch, really shows this in action: testing, learning, failing, and partnering to see what's possible. You'll also meet some of the incredible people behind this effort, from organizations like the World Food Programme, UNICEF, and the Humanitarian University, all working closely with the Ethiopian Ministry of Health. So I would just like to take this opportunity to sort of pass on huge thanks to all of you guys for your effort and collaboration. So the ecosystem we operate in needs all of us, not just sort of me, the team. It needs everybody. So it's a big invitation, I guess, to you guys on the call. It needs your ideas, your expertise, and your shared sense of responsibility to ensure that all of our efforts that we make truly reach those who need them most. Let me just take this opportunity to invite everybody on the call, please, to bring your expertise, ideas, reflections, and questions.
Phil, now you've muted. Maybe it was just a really slow mute experience. You're back again. Great.
I'm back. That's weird.
Yeah.
Sorry, it told me I had been muted.
We heard you up to bringing your questions.
Yeah, so please bring your expertise, ideas, reflections, and questions to the space. Challenge us and push all of us to achieve the most we can. So just end by, reiterating thanks for being part of this. And yeah, we really look forward to hearing your thoughts and ideas of how we can really sort of push this, make it possible, but also scale it up and see where we can apply it more. So yeah, any questions, please reach out. And if you've got ideas for other things you'd like to test, the Frontier Tech program as a program is open to everybody to test ideas. We're here to support teams. We just want to test new ideas and get them adopted and scaled. So if you want to know more, please reach out, and I'm sure there's stuff we can do to help. Thanks, Bryony. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Phil. And yeah, as Phil made a really clear call out there, please do use the chat and pop your questions in. I'm going to be having certain spaces to collect questions in the chat shortly, and then we will have a Q&A section at the end. But as things are occurring to you, or even with the questions that you've come with today, please do use the chat and pop them in there, and we'll have a chance to come to those a bit later. So I noticed a few people have just joined us in the last 10 minutes. So I just wanted to reiterate what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be watching a 15-minute film, hearing from the team involved, having a Q&A, and that should be plenty for the next 45 minutes. So we're going to drop a link now in the chat to the film screening. All you need to do is click the link and press play. But don't do it just yet, so we can just have a moment. Yeah, so Moritz is there. He's popped the link in the chat. So please open that link. Don't press play yet, and we can all press play at the same time. If you have low internet connection, or if you're in a low bandwidth area, you can change the quality of the video to lower it, which will mean your screening experience is hopefully better. So if you go into, there's a button in the bottom right corner of the film screen there when you've clicked the link, and you should be able to adjust the rate there. So the film is just over 15 minutes. I'm going to set a timer now for 16 minutes. Go off, enjoy it. It's wonderful and really interesting. And then we'll come back and we'll be asking you when you come back for your reflections and your questions. So bear those in mind as you're watching. And we'll be here, but cameras and microphones off while we watch. So enjoy. Welcome back, everyone. The last few seconds on the timer. So do come back into the main room. Hopefully you've had a really great experience watching the wonderful film, and you're now finished up. If you've got a few more seconds to go, the link is going to be available to you after the session. So please do pause it and come back. And it would be lovely when you are back in the room to either pop your camera on if you're able. It's always lovely for us, and particularly as we're about to move into the presentation part, to be able to see who's here with us. And if you can't turn your camera on, or you don't want to, please just give us an emoji to say you're back. So maybe a little thumbs up or something like that. It's always quite an odd feeling when you send people off in the middle of a meeting to do something else, then you come back. I'm hoping you're all still with us, and I'm sure you are after really hearing that story and getting to understand more about GeoSeals. As we said, we wanted to hear from you in the chat now. So I'm going to do the same system as before. Moritz is going to put our first prompt in the chat. So the first one is, what resonated with you from the film? So sharing a comment or an observation of something that you saw that felt like it connected with you. So please pop your answer in the chat. Don't press send yet. If you do, that's fine. No problems. And what we'll do is we'll press send together. So I'll just give you a few seconds to land back here and to think, what resonated with me? What'll stay with you? What might you tell someone over your dinner this evening or your lunch, depending on where you are in the world? And then when you're ready and you've popped something down, please press send and we'll see what comes through. We're off. Thank you, David. So we've got here a lot of things here. So the impact of improving knowledge of supply chain effectiveness. Yep, leveraging the ground knowledge of the context. So hearing from people who really know and understand. So having a really clear purpose and the accessibility and reusability of the data. So again, about the skilled staff, so that on the ground knowledge, accepting the possibility of failure, that's really interesting. Quite a small project brought together a lot of stakeholders, so something really there about kind of maybe punching above their weight a little bit, which is great. And then we've got some questions coming in already, so thanks for kicking us off there, Valentina. Again, that kind of thing about testing something new, is it possible, and how do we identify that from Sarah? And understanding what everyone in the supply chain needed to know, so built into design, so that kind of user-centered design process from Patrick. Lots in here. We're already getting questions, so that's fantastic. So I'm going to pass over to questions now. So our next chat wave, what's a question you have? It's a question to harvest questions. And so please pop those in the chat and then just pause and we'll press send together. And Valentina has already kicked us off there. And then we're going to be hearing from Alistair and Ruby, and hopefully they'll have a chance to answer some of these questions now. And if they don't, we'll be hearing more from you before the end of the session. So a little bit later on, we'll be having a chance for Q&A. So what's a question you have? Please press send when you've written your question or questions down, and we can see what we've got here in the room. Yeah, evaluating. So was it proof of concept? How the data is visualized, what you learned, the pivots you had to make, how can the project be adapted? Okay, wonderful. That's great. So many questions are coming in. Keep them coming. We're coming back to these. I'm not skipping over them. But I want to give now Alistair and Ruby, who you met in the film, a chance to tell us a bit more about GeoSeals and what's next on this journey. So over to you, Alistair and Ruby.
Hiya. Are we sharing the slides, Bryony?
The slides are here. Yep.
It's well ahead of me as always. Excellent. Thank you very much. So I'm Ruby. You saw me on the film. I'm the technical lead for GeoSeals, and I'm an engineer working at Arabada. Probably the best place to start is to talk a little bit more about how the tech actually works. So the main sort of basis of our tech is the RFID stickers that are applied to the boxes. Now these are low cost and passive, which means that they don't require any power on the stickers. So when the stickers go past some of our detectors, they're actually powered up by the antenna, which is quite amazing really when you think about it, that that's all happening in the air around us. But our GeoSeal hubs, they need a lot of power to do this, and they're actually battery powered. So the way that we keep that battery power really, we save our battery power, is we actually keep the hubs switched off most of the time. And they only wake up when someone walks past. So we have something called a passive infrared sensor that detects when someone walks past or something goes past. And then the detectors start to detect any RFID labels within the range of the antenna. Now, our RFID reader can actually read up to 1,000 tags a second, which is phenomenal, really, when you think about how many boxes that could detect in 1 second. Now, each tag has a unique ID on it, and this is sent over cellular up to our database and allows us to provide real-time stock levels at different points along the supply chain. So at different points along the supply chain, we have our GeoSeals hubs, which are attached to the doors, and that allows us to detect when things enter or exit a location. So next slide, please, Bryony. So what's really amazing, and when I started this project, I wasn't sure if this was possible at all, and I'm not sure that the team knew if it was possible really. What we wanted to do was to figure out if we could track things down to the last mile, and we thought a lot about whether or not we should track along the way, or what was the best way that we could track something for a low cost way. Like we posed this question, like could we like cost effectively track a bar of soap, That was like our initial commodity that we wanted to look at. And we had to find something like the RFID, which was super low cost. Like each tag costs around 10 cents, which is phenomenal when you think about the cost versus the aid that we're actually tracking, or the commodities we're tracking. And we weren't even sure if it was possible to track down to this last mile. And that's when we started looking at putting these sensors on these clinics and on these points along the supply chain. And this is what you can see here on this diagram. This is actually a single consumable that went through our trial. And it started at the Addis warehouse on May the 14th at 7:30 in the morning. It left there and it headed to a few points along its way before reaching Ballina Arbor Health Post about 6 days later. It visited a zonal health warehouse, Wareda Health Office, and then it went to the health centre before being passed on to that health post. Now, all we're sending over our network is 2 data points. It's just the unique ID of the RFID label, and therefore the box of our ETF or RUSF, and the timestamp. Now, this doesn't sound like very much data, but with this data, we can actually imply a lot of information. Like we can actually find out, the real-time automated stock levels at each of these points, which hasn't been done before. And it currently is done in a very sort of pen and pencil kind of way. And it's relying on people to phone up and ask for more stock. By doing this trial, we showed that it was possible to automate that stock management. And that also allows us to provide some insights into things like time to supply. So we can actually say now that for this shipment, it took 6 days for the shipment to reach the final destination. And this means that not only do we know whether stock levels are okay, we can start providing insights to decision makers as to, how long does it take for stock to arrive places, and can we get on-time delivery? And that's a really important thing. You saw in the film, that mother being prescribed RUTF. If she can't access that, the impact isn't just on her and her child, it's on the trust in the health system as a whole. And so this is why that kind of data, these just 2 data points, can be really important. If we increase our coverage and we're able to look at more places along the supply chain, we'd actually be able to look into insights into things like divergence and leakage and provide better understanding of how that's working within the supply chain today. So I'm going to move to the next slide if possible, Bryony. And with any technology, I talked a lot about failure. I'm a big believer in failing. I know it sounds awful, like to say that out loud, but I really do think that you can't learn unless you try. And so in this case, this was our trial, right? And a trial should come up with some challenges and obstacles to overcome. The first one that we had was cellular network. Now, I take it for granted that I'm going to have 4G, even 5G data. I can watch a video anywhere in the UK. In Ethiopia, that's obviously different. And I actually saw in the chat earlier that there's problems with the internet today there. So some people weren't able to watch the video. And that's the reality. That's the on-the-ground reality that we were facing. And although there was some cell network in each of our locations, it wasn't really enough. And actually what we have to do is implement sort of a backup system, a satellite comm system, so that we can ensure that that data is returning back to our dashboard. And this means that it makes a more robust system, means that data is always available, and we're not, not losing out just because, it's a bad day for the cell network. One of the major, the weirdest things that we hadn't trialed or that we didn't expect to find was how people carry boxes differently in different countries. This is now something I want to understand better. But in the UK, when we were testing, we were holding the box in front of us and we were walking through the doors and expecting, we were seeing good results. This was great. And when we actually tested on the ground and we observed people doing their jobs, they were mostly holding the boxes on top of their shoulder, as you can see in picture 2. And this means that we can actually reduce the range of the antennas in those kind of situations. We don't have to use as much power because they're actually holding it closer towards the sensor. But we had other challenges, which you'll see in picture 3. And Billy Sue, who's on the call today, we had to deal with steel doors. In the UK, most of our doorways are made of wood. They're very rarely made of steel. I know this because I'm currently trying to source a steel door to do the tests. But we went there and we realised that it was all steel doorways and that we would need to better understand how that affected the RF signal that we use to detect our tags. And so those were just a few of the things that we had to overcome. And there was lots of feedback that we got from our implementing partners that was really, really helpful. And we're still learning, and we'll continue to learn with our future trials that we plan to run. And I'll hand over to Alistair now, who's going to tell you a lot more about the next steps and what's on the road ahead. So
thanks, Ruby.
No worries.
Hopefully you can all hear me okay. Yep, fantastic. So you would have noticed me from the film. I was the gentleman walking around with a fantastic team in the field testing GeoSeals. And today it really is a hello to all of you, and thanks so much for joining us, because we've kind of classed this as our launch event to validate with you that we've seen GeoSeals deliver. So we know that that technology can deliver what we need, i.e. that low-cost tracking of nutritional supplies from the warehouse through to the HDPs. And we want to share this with you and kind of invite you to join us on this journey, because even looking at how many fantastic questions there are on the screen now, I would love to spend half an hour going through every single one of them, because you're jumping into our world, and it was our world where we were experimenting with some of these, questioning ourselves as to what happens if someone takes a tag off and understands that that's how we're tracking the aid. Will that, will that create a security risk for us moving forwards? All the way through to what's the range of this RFID scanner? You know, how far can we scan? These questions that start to bubble away and come onto the scene. And that's exactly what we're doing now. We are moving through to what we're calling the tech development and testing phase, because even though we had that successful trial with UNICEF, we still want to validate with WFP as well in Ethiopia that they too had similar results. We want to solve some of those problems that we've encountered along the way, such as incorporating satellite comms, ensuring that that's still cost effective, working with the team on the ground to understand matters that affect us. For example, I'll pick one question which popped up here that I just left my little slider on. There was a question from Lone saying, I understand that a box of RUTF or RUSF has to pass a tracker to be seen. That's true. How can the tech be used to prevent or track aid diversion beyond seeing that commodities have left the warehouse, but they haven't arrived at a health distribution centre? We have the same question. What if we track the aid leaves the warehouse, which GeoSeals does? So we do scan the aid leaving the warehouse from its primary destination, and we see it arrive at a health distribution point. But where did it end up on the route? What if we see that 50% of that stock has gone elsewhere? And that started to ask questions such as, well, could we make a mobile GeoSeal hub? Could we take it to a marketplace? Could we walk through that marketplace and identify if there are any RUTF sachets or boxes for sale? And these are great questions that still arrive today. And that's why this is a work in progress. What we have achieved is evidence by testing this that we know this can work. And then we're on a journey now to identifying how we scale it, how we answer these questions with you, because you are the users of this. You are the aid agency officers, the future users of the dashboard. It will be you responding to this and you telling us how this would work in Sudan, Nigeria, etc. So we really want to start this relationship with you where we can share our progress and also get this feedback. And in November, we'll be traveling back to Addis to include some of these new updates. So all those kind of improvements that Ruby spoke about, we will be introducing them with the UNICEF and WFP team. We'll be sharing our results. And importantly, we're looking at a business model. And as a not-for-profit open source organization, this isn't about business as we see it in terms of profit making. This is business and how do we deliver GeoSeals effectively? How do we ensure that it works for you? Will this be a service provision with maintenance and technology support? Or will this be a partnership whereby we work with your own teams in the field as maintainers of the hubs who visit these sites? We provide technical support. And how does this fit into your budgets and your experience? You know, there's a lot in that we want to deliver together. So together with the FCDO and the embassy in Addis, we're working on that all the way through to early 2025. And we're calling this the 100 hub phase. And this is where we want to go and install the next 100 hubs in Ethiopia, show that data flowing through, bring that dashboard to life, validate all these remaining questions we've got, and then unlock the road to what 1,000 hubs, what 10,000 hubs look like across Ethiopia and beyond. And today was our opportunity to share that with you, because GeoSeals now exists. It's now a real tangible thing. We are working to deliver that. Go back to when we started on day one with Phil. It was an idea, an experiment. And now we're on this journey to see where we can take it next and how it can, importantly, deliver what you need, which is solving that problem of divergence and leakage and addressing the need on the ground at a low cost and in a scalable way. So that's why I want to jump on today to share that with you. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. I will now pass back to the lead.
Thank you. Thanks, Alistair. And thanks, Alistair and Ruby. The chat is popping off. So we've done our best to grab some questions out of there, but no, we're on Teams, the chat's staying here. And so I think we'll probably be going through it after this event and just pulling out maybe more questions or topics that we might want to share some more information around afterwards in our follow-up email. So I'm going to start. There's a few questions have come in about kind of the process. So one is, can you tell us about what you learned and the pivots you had to make along the way? I mean, you've touched on some of that already. If you were to do this process all over again, what one change would you make to the approach? And how did you evaluate the impact, or is this more of a proof of concept kind of piece of work? So Alistair, Ruby, I'm not sure who wants to come in first. Ruby, go for it.
I'll head in. So it was a proof of concept trial. So I'll start with that. We put through 200 boxes as part of this trial. So this is stage one of evaluating how our technology could work. And so the first stage for us was just to remove as many errors as possible from the process. We just wanted to check that we could actually get data back to our database that was representative of, we saw 200 boxes. We actually managed to track about 194, I think, total through the system. And throughout that trial, we discovered some issues. So we were like, okay, this firmware, there was a firmware bug that we had to fix with the cellular. We got that sorted throughout the trial. It was very much like a learning experience. And our next trials are going to be more sort of how do humans interact with the technology, and how robust is it when we're not there helping people using it, because that's the main aspect of it. This whole process has been pivots. We started looking at kind of almost like a Deliveroo style, tracking, which is, you can see where your food is leaving the restaurant. You can watch the person cycling it to your door and almost like open the door before they get to your door, if that makes sense. So we looked at all sorts of technologies, and we spent maybe a year, I think, Alistair, I mean, I don't just hop in wherever, but about a year just evaluating off-the-shelf solutions and understanding, we visited warehouses in the UK. We talked to so many humanitarian advisors, some of them are actually on the call today. So they've been pivotal in us actually landing on this kind of solution where actually we don't need to track. What's not important is where it goes right now. That is important if you know I'll explain better. It's not important to know exactly where it is along the whole journey, but it's important to know that it's arrived, because that allows you to not only provide information on stock, it then later gives you insight into things like divergence and leakage and other tools like GPS trackers that provide that kind of all the way, sort of that insight of every point along the journey. That's more appropriate to this. The problem we were trying to solve here, or the problem we're trying to solve, is stockouts, and therefore provide that data that could later help people discover leakage and divergence. But do I jump in now? The thing that's
Yeah, I was just going to jump on too and summarize how we approached it too. So I know that came up as a question. So what's really interesting with GeoSeals, and we do get asked this now and again too, is there anything else out there that is similar? Like, what is something else? I saw a question about what other market-based solutions were there. Interestingly, this is not new technology, in that RFID, or those tags that we use, are used across the world to prevent theft in supermarkets, through to already tracking commodities moving through warehouses. But that world was created for a always powered, always good infrastructure, expensive commercial space. And when we started to look at what those off-the-shelf solutions were, that hub cost of a small, dusty room in the middle of nowhere would be £2,500 for a hub with mains power and a fast internet connection. And that was not reality on the ground. So what we had to actually do is look at what's out there and then look at the suitability of it working in our environment. And that's where the innovation came in, and that we had to rebuild from scratch what an RFID reader could be at very low cost and incorporate all of the realities such as solar charging, the complexity of running on battery, because they use a lot of energy very quickly to do their scanning, how to keep that low powered for very long periods of time and wake up and only transmit at those key intervals. So essentially, we were trying to repurpose technology that exists today to fit into a low cost operation and in a way which would work for us. And that's when that cellular and satellite came in as well. For this to be effective, we're going to use satellite IoT, which is a very new low cost form of sending very small amounts of data, but you can really bring the cost down. Satellite's been very expensive for a very long time for that kind of connectivity. So it's all about selecting these technologies and reassessing, can we make something fit for purpose? So that really was something that we had to jump on right at the start. So I just wanted to share that too, as to what we looked at.
Thank you. Thanks both. We've got lots more questions coming in. We're not going to have time for all of them, I'm afraid. And I just want to ask one about the future or kind of possible futures. What capabilities would you be able to introduce, or would you want to introduce if there was more money?
Shall I jump in, Ruby?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, it's a great question. Is there ever more money? I never know if there is. We're always trying to keep it as budget efficient as possible. I think for me, the answer to this is the connectivity of who looks at this data and the value that we can get from it. So regardless of what we do in the field with technology, an actual end user receiving their nutritional supply and us knowing it arrived, and then telling and informing the aid delivery agencies that it's there is critical. And if we were to go to the next step, I think how we do that in today's modern world is a really big question. For example, how are we sending those alerts to users on an everyday basis? Are we hooking into everyday apps such as WhatsApp to actually receive an alert that you have a potential stockout? Are we sending Slack messages? Are we sending emails? How are we generating this this environment where you get the value from it? You know what's happening in near real time. And that's a big question. That may be having to integrate to other existing databases run by embassies and governments, which can take time to do, to know how to hook in at programming level. So more resource, and going forwards, I'd love to see a world where we really deliver that well, but it doesn't become something that has the data, but we can't get it to the users who want to use it and consume it and know what's going on with their supply chains. So that's a focus for me. Ruby, anything on your side?
Anything quickly to add, Ruby? We're going to close.
That was pretty much everything from Alistair. Yeah, I think I'm very happy with that.
Great, okay. Thank you. Well, so many more questions in the chat. As you said, Alistair, you could be here for another half an hour at least, yeah. I think. So hopefully these are questions we can pick up offline. Before we close, I just want to hand over to Phil Cockrell from the FCDO, just to say a few words about his experience on this project.
Thanks, Bryony. Thanks, Phil, Alistair, and Ruby, and everyone for your thoughtful questions and insightful discussion in the chat there. GeoSeals began as an idea, but over the past few years, it's been really incredible to watch that idea evolve into something tangible and something that's been tested, refined, and learnt from in the real world environment. And it really does feel like we're on the verge of making a lasting impact here. It was born out of this problem that I had, and I'm a statistician, so most of my problems, in work at least, relate to numbers. So the numbers are missing, or they don't add up, or they're too old to be useful. But number problems are quite niche interest. And so it was really important for me to kind of frame this problem as part of a much larger challenge, that there's still high levels of malnutrition in Ethiopia, despite these, really large humanitarian and food security programs. And this is a problem that lots of people are interested in solving. So to find a solution, I needed to bring together the experts that we've got here, but also lots of other people who were, some of who were on this call, but others as well, because I didn't know anything about the technology, I had limited knowledge about humanitarian delivery. I'd never been to Ethiopia. So finding all these right people was essential. And hopefully this event has been an opportunity to bring people together as well. got a breadth of experience and knowledge in this kind of virtual space, and hopefully it's inspired you to team up and take on some challenges that you face and kind of identify those common issues that relate to the big picture of progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. I do hope you'll stay connected and engaged with us as we move into the next phase. We'll be in touch with updates on how you can stay involved, and we'll let you know once those 100 hubs in the pilot in Ethiopia are fully installed. But in the meantime, if you're curious to dive deeper or to collaborate further, then don't hesitate to reach out to the GeoSeals team. We'll make sure that the contact details are shared, and so you can easily get in touch. So thank you again for joining us today. Together, I think we're pushing boundaries, and I'm confident that with this momentum, we can continue to make a real difference where it matters most. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. And what a great call to action there. I can see already there's a huge amount of kind of collaboration in the chat happening. Maritz is going to share the GeoSeals LinkedIn page. That's one step you can take now to just follow them so you can stay up to date with this journey. And we also would love to invite you to join the Frontier Technologies Network, as we'll be running more sessions diving into the frontier of sustainable agriculture, responsible tech and climate finance over the next few months. So thank you so much for your questions and your contributions. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. I hope the rest of the day is good, and we'll be in touch. Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.